Breaking news for you, tornadoes and severe weather touching down right across Illinois. Residents seeking shelter as homes are leveled. That's right, funnel clouds have been seen all across Illinois and northwest Indiana. They were reported in Coal City, Illinois, in Wilmington, in Frankfort, and Braceville. Let's begin with ABC 7's Phil Schwartz and Jerry Taft, both in the Weather Center tonight. Guys, what do you have? Now, one of the first areas that we heard about having great damage reports was Coal City, Illinois, and Eyewitness News reporter Michelle Gallardo there now for us live with the latest. Michelle?
Yes, News, back to you now.
All right, a lot of perspective there. Eric, thank you very much. Severe weather also impacting Frankfort in the southwest suburbs today. Our crews shooting video of the damage to some homes there. People down in Manhattan, Illinois, reeling with the destruction there left behind by the storm. And there's ABC 7 Eyewitness News reporter Sarah Schulte live now for us. Sarah, what's the latest from you? Welcome back, everyone. That was a live press conference going on down in some of the most hard-hit areas. Diamond, Illinois, talking about a curfew that's going to be required, at least for part of that little town. People worried about leaving their homes, which are wide open now because part of them have been blown apart. Alan, that's so dramatic, all that information, those pictures. Keep them coming. Thanks very much. Now,
Alan, good afternoon from Chopper 7 HD. And what we have is a direct pathway from where you are to where I am right now, 800 feet in the air over Coal City. We followed the line of the tornado as it came up, and you can see the marking in the land where there was destruction on the farmland and so on. And then it hit this town, which is about 70 miles northeast of where you are, 52 miles to the southwest of Chicago, frankly, on a direct line. And take a look at the destruction you are seeing in Coal City. This is the Diamond Estates area, and frankly, this situation has been cleaned up quite a bit compared to what we saw earlier today. Chopper 7 HD was up early this morning with first light, and it was far more scattered. That's not to say that the job of rebuilding is not an enormous thing still here, but as you can see, the people who live here have started to react and have been able to take action on their properties, moving some of the debris into one area or another. But look at the destruction that we have. Roofs, cars, timber everywhere. People are going to have a long time between now and when they get back to a time where their lives are returning to normal. Reporting live from Chopper 7 HD in Coal City, Illinois, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Alan, back to you.
Eyewitness News reporter Ravi Baichwal. Ravi's in Chopper 7 HD over suburban Manhattan. Ravi?
Alan, that's exactly right. As we flew down here earlier today, this beautiful farmland gave way to the swath of destruction that the tornado had made. We're up here in Manhattan, about 50 miles north of where you are, and you take a look at a farmhouse sitting on its side. Take a look at this destruction from the air. You can see how the ground itself has been churned up. I've been posting pictures on Twitter showing how where there were no houses, you could actually see the swirl marks in the soil. It is unbelievable to see.
Flying over the destruction here in Washington, Illinois, and when you encounter it for the first time, it is absolutely shocking. Really, that is about the only way you could describe it. This is the picture of utter devastation. As I look out here from Chopper 7 HD, you see homes that have been flattened, homes that have been ripped apart, homes that are still standing in terms of the frame, but everything that was inside those homes is now on the outside. What essentially was wood to hold up and be part of these homes is now turned into kindling. It is just simply everywhere. But the other part that's striking about all this is as you look around, you see the very distinct path that the tornado took as it went on this southwest to northeast angle. And up here on this beautiful day, you can see it's pointed directly right at Chicago. But that path is very distinct, about 600 yards wide, about a good mile and a half long. And then on the outsides of those lines, everything seems to be relatively normal. It really is something that we all have to think about and be grateful for in terms of how much people were able to survive this power of nature. The very distinct path that the tornado took as it went on this southwest to northeast angle, and up here on this beautiful day, you can see it's pointed directly right at Chicago.
Hi, Stacy. Hi, Ben. I am in my car with my 10-year-old son, and we are coming back from a travel hockey game from the southwest suburbs. We literally escaped probably the worst of it left it behind in the
After the storm, Ravi Baichwal and Karen Jordan now standing in here at the anchor desk, relieving a great job by Stacey Baca and our colleague Ben Bradley, as well as you take a look at live shots around the coastline here in Lakeshore. We just drove down Lakeshore over the last hour, and I can tell you, first of all, if you're on Lakeshore, you really need to avoid the left lane, especially if you're going southbound. There are enormous puddles all the way from the northern suburbs coming down, and people are driving, at higher speeds now because the weather has cleared a little bit. But then a lot of stories as this storm seems to have just caught a lot of folks by surprise on a day like today. Let's now turn over to the National Guard. We've got Major Brad Langton on the line right now. Major, thank you very much. Tell us how the National Guard is responding to all these storms.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. The unit that's responding is the 182nd Airlift Wing.
So, Major, when you go into earlier in your career, not just the hail, but just in terms of the ferociousness of the storm.
Sure. I have witnessed a few tornadoes myself in the past.
Sounds like enough people got the right kind of warnings through the media and elsewhere through cell phones, social media, and so on, which is the most important thing in these population. But for you, social media has been critical in terms of figuring out where these breakdowns are. Tell us a little bit about that. You have 230 cancellations through the afternoon, and we know how important O'Hare is to the national aviation system. How off track does that put operations at O'Hare to have that many? Community high school, the crowd is growing by the minute, and what they're going to be hearing when they actually get inside is word from state and federal emergency management officials about how their losses are actually being documented. But of course, they won't be able to stay. Not when more than 1,000 homes in Washington have received official preliminary designation as destroyed.
What we saw was 1,484 homes categorized as either completely destroyed or with major damage.
Worst thing of all is my mom made the last house payment last week in just 18 years and finally got it paid off. Everything was going good, everyone was happy, and then never even imagined Sunday waking up, everything's gone.
Federal and state authorities escorted us around some of the worst of the devastation.
It's hard to imagine this used to be a garage.
Beginning Saturday at 9 a.m., residents and their authorized friends will be allowed in to salvage whatever may remain for them here.
I kept fighting for residents to get them back to their homes. Within 48 hours, we were able to accomplish that.
Volunteers will need permission from homeowners to help them as they access their properties. Government employees will not be authorized to help as residents pick over their belongings. Soon after, the demolitions will begin.
If it's destroyed, I think it's pretty obvious that people should not be inside of it for any duration of time. But the minor and major categories, by definition, start with the word uninhabitable, and people need to remember that.
And there are, of course, a lot of uninhabitable homes around here, and the people who were in those homes are going inside that building right now. We're going to go inside, get a sense of this meeting, and get a sense of how satisfied these people are with the kinds of answers they're about to get. We'll bring you the latest on that from Washington, Illinois at 6 o'clock. But for now, reporting live.
News reporter Ravi Baichwal live in Washington tonight. He has more on this meeting. Ravi.
Well, Kathy, indeed, this is a battered community. Some 500 people in the gymnasium in the high school right behind me, hearing from a range of authorities, federal, state, emergency management officials, and the mayor of this town talking about when they are eventually going to be able to get back to their homes and be able to at least salvage some few remnants of the life they had before Sunday. It rained here quite a bit today, and so the attempt to try to get into those homes today was called off at the last second, disappointing many residents in this town, but they now know that they're going to be able to get in as of 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, Kathy, of those 1,400 homes destroyed in Illinois, over 1,000, more than two-thirds of them right here in Washington, Illinois. And today, as you say, some residents are going to be allowed to go back to their homes tomorrow starting at 9 a.m. to try to salvage anything, something, maybe a little memory from all the destruction, as you can see, is simply everywhere. As night fell, the detritus of a tornado looked all the more daunting. But that did not deter battered townspeople from a community meeting where they heard that they will be allowed back to their homes tomorrow morning through the weekend.
Get pretty frustrated when our residents couldn't get back in, and I'm fighting for you, and within 48 hours we had you back in there, which I think is remarkable.
The Stamper family has lived here for 45 years.
The sense of the town, being so disturbed by everything, and everything that I see everywhere, it's just, everything's so not the way it was.
In the cafeteria, another story of grace. Joliet Catholic High School football players bringing a pasta dinner to their Washington, Illinois rivals, to whom they lost last week before the destruction.
They are incredibly resilient. I mean, out of bad always comes goodness, and there's so much goodness that has come out of this terrible tragedy.
And that spirit helped students earlier today as they returned to class.
It's nice to be back at school. I'm glad. I'm excited to see all my friends, to just make sure they're okay.
And that spirit is also helping organizers of a benefit concert that is set for the weekend. It's going to involve REO Speedwagon and Styx and some other big names, going to be held at U.S. Cellular Arena in Bloomington, all to benefit the victims of the tornado that came through here on Sunday. Reporting live from Washington, Illinois, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Ron, back. Well, Alan, Linda, you're exactly right. This football game that's shaping up in Springfield to be something that is a moment of hope for the people who are dealing with this devastation that really is going nowhere around here. This football game may be the last one for so many seniors who are on the Washington High School football team, but they know they're playing for more than just themselves. They're playing for their town to give them something to hold on to. A team now in the national spotlight as they prepare to play for the right to go to the state 5A championship.
In times like this, we need to be behind the community. That's why we were out there those 2 days helping clean it up and doing things like that. And we know the community will always be behind us, especially this weekend.
Their coach grows quiet when thinking about how many of his players came out of church on Sunday morning and ran into the disaster zone to help, even though many, as it turned out, were victims as well.
The biggest thing you can do to help your town out is give them that 2-hour escape of we're going to get a chance to go watch our guys play.
The Panthers of Washington High School carry the hopes of a devastated town. As residents were let back in to pick through what's left, U.S. Senator Dick Durbin called what he saw the worst tornado damage he's ever encountered. And he promised to fight on Capitol Hill if anyone does not think this deserves full federal emergency assistance.
How could there be any question about whether there's support? And I know you have to go through formulas and procedures and policies, but this has got to be pretty much a slam dunk.
Again, I was surprised and disappointed in Harrisburg, and I don't want to go way out on a limb, but I feel more positive about this because of the devastation that was involved.
And then, amid the debris,
poor baby! Where was he, Kelly?
A moment of hope in the aftermath of the terrible power that was unleashed.
He's been living in my basement since the tornado. So I got to get him to the vet, though. I want to make sure he's okay.
And we're back live. Chalk up one life used for that cat, which was found just in that debris between those two houses you're taking a look at right now. Another little tiny sign of hope for this town that is reeling so much, and really they understand this football game that's going to be happening tomorrow in the state capitol is just a football game, but make no mistake, they want to win it as a marking event for this town to start moving forward. Reporting live from Washington, Illinois, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Alan, back to you.
Ravi.
Well, Kathy and Alan, good evening from Washington, Illinois, where indeed it is slow and steady in trying to rebuild this town. Take a look at this. These are shingles just lying all over the place. The temperature has dropped, and as you look behind me, you can see the shredded wood of trees that used to be here. There actually is a smell of timber in the air, which is a very odd sense given the kind of destruction you see. So there isn't a lot of hope, but it is Friday night in America, and that means a lot of people are thinking about football. Facing scrutiny typically reserved for the pros, senior members of the Washington High School Panthers said they are ready to win for their town.
And our goals before this even happened was to get past the quarters and eventually get to state. And so for me, it hasn't changed anymore.
Just try to tell our guys that you need to do the things that we have done. And if you play a team between this week and if we're fortunate enough to win next week and they just have better guys, just shake hands at the end of the day, and you just want to make sure it's an effort you're proud of.
That community pulled together in several ways today as authorities escorted residents of the Georgetown Commons back to their apartments for the first time.
I haven't been able to get in there and get anything, and all I'm going to get today is 30 minutes.
Generac, a company out of Waukesha, donated equipment to ensure the safety of Aaron Montgomery's daughter. The 5-year-old had heart surgery last year and depends on power to help her breathe and eat. Her father tended a portable generator with a gas can all night long after the tornado struck.
I think it's one of those special needs parents' worst nightmare when you lose electricity and you don't know how long it's going to be. We were told a week.
In the meantime, the push for federal aid continued with the arrival of U.S. Senator Dick Durbin.
I've grown up in Illinois. I've ducked into the basement when the sirens went off as a kid.
Which we should do.
Which you always have to do. I've never seen anything like this, nothing. And I've been to a lot of tornado damage, and this reaches a new level of devastation.
And you can see where Senator Durbin is really affected by what he saw. That was just over here where you're looking now live. A cat actually was found under some basement timbers right beside that house there just after Senator Durbin had gone by. That big football game, all eyes on it in Springfield. It happens tomorrow. It's going to be televised. It starts at 3 o'clock. A lot of folks are going to be getting together to watch that to get through this weekend and the days ahead. Reporting live from Washington, Illinois, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Alan and Kathy, back to you.
Eyewitness News reporter Ravi Baichwal live in Washington tonight. Ravi?
Well, Ron, it is an amazing story of Mark Wells and his family. We actually spoke to them earlier tonight. The family is fine. But as you take a look behind me at the power of the storm, look at that aluminum cladding wrapped around that tree. That's kind of what happened to Mark Wells and his family around their home. They had a perspective on the tornado they will never forget, and you probably won't either. It is something that really has never been seen before.
Holy moly. All right. Holy. All right, I gotta go. I'm coming, honey. Oh, man. Our house is freaking destroyed, Josie. Oh my God! Where's Autumn? Oh, I've never seen anything like it. I'm in shock. I can't believe this happened. Oh my God, Josie! The neighbors' houses are gone.
Sheer terror, the kind of emotion as well on the mind of a man who decided to buck the best safety trend and try to outrun this tornado. Take a look at this.
It's on the ground. There's debris flying. Yeah, it's on the ground now.
The Plunk family decides to make a run home, east to Eureka, from a store in Washington after they heard reports that the twister was headed northwest.
Pretty scary because you really can't turn around because that's where they usually overtake you, I guess. So we just had to keep going and hope we beat it. If we had waited 30 more seconds in a Menards parking lot, it'd have probably been a different story.
Not so lucky were several members of the Washington High School football team who lost everything on the eve of a playoff game that has taken on new meaning.
You have people that are pulling for you. You have our guys that are kind of trying to take their town on their shoulders to win this game.
That distraction will not come soon enough for residents of Georgetown Commons, a doomed complex whose tenants were allowed back into their homes today for the first time.
I've never seen anything like this, nothing.
Or for residents further north whose subdivision was simply flattened as if a bomb had gone off.
How could there be any question about whether there's support? This has got to be pretty much a slam dunk.
I was surprised and disappointed in Harrisburg, and I don't want to go way out on a limb, but I feel more positive about this because of the devastation that was involved.
But in the rubble, a moment of victory. A cat found, having spent one of its 9 lives wisely.
Poor baby! Where was he, Kelly?
A slight note of levity here in Washington, Illinois. They really need it. And tomorrow maybe they'll get some more. The big football game happening in Springfield for the chance to fight for the 5A state title later this month in November. Everyone here is going to be watching that game. Reporting.
Eyewitness News reporter Ravi Baichwal joining us live with that story. Ravi?
Well, Cheryl, indeed, it is a lovely story, an event made for an interesting meeting of Americans united in honoring and helping this latest generation of veterans who are trying to move on from the war on terror. Upstairs at Gibson's restaurant in the heart of River North, over 250 gathered to celebrate veterans, the young men and women scarred physically and emotionally from the war on terror. Since 2004, the Disabled Patriot Fund has raised and given away $1.7 million from people like these to people such as Antioch Army Specialist Nick Mapson, who now lives on a military pension after enduring burns to nearly half his body after an improvised explosive device blew up his vehicle in Afghanistan in 2004. In the audience, a table of leaders from Chicago's Sikh community. Compelled to reach out to the Disabled Patriot Fund, whose members largely come from the southwest suburban building industry, when they heard of the good work DPF carried out. At one time, 25% of the British Indian Army was comprised of Sikhs, and this event was a chance to bond with strangers over something that unites all Americans.
We are part of the mainstream America, and then these are our people, these are our soldiers, our patriots that love this country, and we also love this country. That's why we are here, and we want to honor them for all they have done for our nation.
The outreach was a pleasant surprise to the man who started the DPF.
When we have an event, we generally just attract Americans that are patriots, that are happy and thankful for those that are going and fighting for our freedom.
And in the end, the event raised another $60,000 for the DPF, money that will be given out in $5,000 increments or more, or even help with a house or a car to those who have paid a real price for freedom.
I'm blown away. I didn't expect this. It means so much that you know, people are willing to go out of their way to help me.
Indeed, the DPF has helped well over 200 returning Chicago area veterans in its nearly decade of existence now, and this really is a testament to what can be done for real American heroes right here at the local level. Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Ron and Cheryl, back.
Eyewitness News reporter Ravi Baichwal has more.
Neighbors and the property manager of this apartment building on South Halstead say it was from this balcony that 62-year-old Andrew Walls was thrown last night as he tried to fend off a robber.
It's unjustified. He's still somebody's grandfather. He may be still somebody's father. He's still human. And to the person that did this crime, you know, he needs to either turn himself in or you can't live with it on your conscience.
The robber had apparently just stolen a man's purse from someone when the Navy veteran encountered him. They fought over the older man's wallet, the struggle ending when he was tossed down to this landing. The apartment sits a block north of here, which is his home, the St. Leo Residence for Veterans, a 7-year-old institution run by Catholic Charities. Andrew Walls' neighbors say he was quiet and friendly, but they have no idea what he would be doing up the block late at night.
You know, he's not an aggressive person. You know, I don't know why he was where he was at that time.
He's just a loving person, and I just don't understand, you know, how a person could do that to him.
Though there are camera pods, they were not working. Walls was rushed to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn, where his brother is known to have visited him. Hospital officials say the Vietnam veteran has a fractured skull and he's in critical condition. Chicago police only say they're investigating. In the Auburn Gresham neighborhood, Ravi Baichwal, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Well, Ron and Cheryl, good evening. Those are indeed shocking allegations against Officer Alan Hall, that 19-year veteran of the Chicago Police Force. Now, it takes 4 to 10 hours to get out of the Cook County Jail if, in fact, you are able to be bonded out by a relative. As the afternoon shift change of sheriff's deputies fills one gate, alongside there's another filled with those awaiting people bonding out of the Cook County Jail. 57-year-old Alan Hall is expected to be one of those after a judge set bond of $20,000 today after the 19-year veteran of the Chicago Police Force.
There's no blemishes on his record whatsoever, and now this just hit him like a brick wall.
And we're back live as we take a look to see if, in fact, Officer Hall is going to be able to make his exit anytime soon. All we can say about his status with the Chicago Police Department at this point is that he has been relieved of his police duties. What that means in terms of his desk job, in terms of him holding onto his gun, the police will not give us any clarification on that just yet. They're among the biggest and strongest of all professional athletes, and the need to be mentally tough is the price of admission to an exclusive club. But there is a line.
You know, when guys come into the league, they are going to be pressured and the things are going to happen. But it gets to a certain point where you count on these guys to win games, and you've got to bring them in as they are your brothers, and, you know, you're going towards a common goal. And it's hard to do that when you're, you know, you're putting a wedge between players.
Can't show that you're hurt. Can't show any pain. So for a guy that comes in the locker room and he shows a little vulnerability, you know, that's a problem. So that's what I mean by the culture of the NFL. And that's what we have to change.
But today, in the wake of word that the NFL has appointed a top criminal attorney to investigate what happened in the Miami Dolphins locker room, some are questioning how the league moves forward with yet another massive problem. ESPN Radio's Tom Waddle caught passes for the Chicago Bears in the early 1990s. He says in the Incognito affair, clearly lines of respect were crossed, but it seems likely the NFL will not pay a long-term price.
Let's face it, baseball may be America's pastime, football is America's passion. And as long as you can construct your fantasy football team on Sundays and you can gamble on football, the passion's always going to be there.
And that willingness to look beyond is a symptom of America's addiction to football that this economist says lies at the heart of what is really wrong here.
The NFL, like a lot of organizations, is willing to take a lot of attack on its principles or behavior before it's willing to take an attack on its income. And these things threaten their income.
And again, Jonathan Martin is a second-year offensive tackle from Stanford who left the Dolphins last week amid these allegations of bullying and racist and threatening emails from Incognito, who's now in his 9th year as an offensive guard. And as Alan, Linda, you both know, Mr. Incognito has had behavioral problems with other teams before in college and so on. And we'll see if either of these players actually ever plays a game again in the NFL.